What's up, summoners? King Blair here. Today, we're going to be talking about the current banner heroes, Yufine, as well as Roana, and whether or not you should pull for them. So if you like the video, make sure you like, subscribe, and join the Discord server. Link down in the description. Make sure you subscribe and join me on my journey to try to reach Champion RTA this season using all RGB units only. I started the first stream today and we're gonna do the next one on Sunday, and so far it is very hard because it's early season, but we're getting some pretty cool wins, right, and showcasing some really cool champions. So make sure you're subscribed for that. But enough about that. Let's get to what you came here for, which is probably going to be Roana and Yufine. Should you pull? So as always, I like to start the video with a summary of where we are right now, as well as the units themselves. So first, where we are right now. The collab is very likely about 4 to 6 weeks away, right? Maybe even 8. It is expected that it will come in June, which is closer than you may actually think. We're almost in May, right? So we're a little bit over a month away from the collab. So you do want to have summons for the collab, but there's still some time before you get there. There is a good chance that there will be at least 2 limited units coming, so make sure you have enough for that. I know it sounds like a lot, but you really need to start thinking about saving. The other thing is that there's a good chance there'll be a new hero within the next couple of weeks that could be very good. That aside, with that in mind, let's actually go to the actual units. So first, Yufine. I'm going to tell you right now, don't pull for her. Just don't, right? You're going to be wasting so many resources if you're pulling on Yufine. She really only has a couple of scenarios where you can use her, and other units can do her job as well that you may already have in your box. Some people use her for Banshee one-shot. Well, there's her Valen, and there's a 2-star hero that's Mouse that can do the same job, so you don't really need her for Banshee one-shot. She is okay for Water Expedition as a DPS, and that's about it, right? There's not a lot that she's actually good for. There's not really great PvP builds. She's pretty much outscaled in almost every aspect. But again, who am I to tell you to not pull for your waifu? You can definitely still use her in certain cleaves or also in bruisers with a counter build, and she's kind of fun. And some people, high-level players, have built her for fun on a counter set, just for fun, but for the most part, I would not pull for her, especially free to play. There's too much other stuff. On the other hand, Roana, I'm going to tell you right now, you really have to think what you value. Because Roana is a tried and true unit. She is a good unit. She works in a lot of situations and works in a lot of different teams. In arena defense, she's still the go-to unit, and she's one of the most used units in arena defense. If I scroll down in champion in arena defense, she's gonna be there just because of how tanky, how annoying she is, how she stops Seaside, which again, it's a pretty good cleave. You have to have an answer to Seaside. There are other things you can do, but still, she's the best arena defense unit. She has an amazing PvE, and we're talking like amazing PvE. We're talking that she can literally help you solo with, of course, with other units, but hard grade. She also is extremely good for Water Expedition. You can use her for Banshee. She's great in a lot of Abyss stages. She has a lot of PvE uses where you can actually use her, and she's pretty good, right? And in PvP, she's amazing as well. Just very tanky, very annoying, counter Deftenic, counter Seaside. Very, very good, solid unit. If you ask top level players, what they're going to tell you is some people will say she's a must pull. Some people say she's really good, but it's up to you. I'm with the one that I will tell you she's a very good unit, and it is up to you and your account. How free to play are you? How low are your resources, right? If you only have like 20 summons right now, you shouldn't be pulling on the banner, because if you don't get her in those 20 summons, those are 20 summons you could have saved for the limited banner. If you're someone that has like 300 summons and you don't have her, then she's a unit that you should consider pulling, because she's actually really, really strong, right? So it completely depends on where you are right now as a player, whether you're free to play, whether you want to risk it for the biscuit for the collab, or whether you think you can pull her in a couple summons and get her. Is she good? She's great. She's amazing for PvP and PvE. Is she a must pull? Depends on where you are. Depends how many counters you have to Seaside. Depends on your play style. If you're a cleave player, not really, although she helps a lot for arena defense, right? To get you to champion or challenger, where you can get a lot more gems, right? Especially challenger, because I know some people struggle. So that's that. I know that's a weird summary, and it's not a direct answer, but it really does depend on you and where you are right now. I will tell you she's a very good unit, and I would try to pull for her if possible, unless you already have all PvE cleared and you already are champion in arena and all this other stuff, then you probably don't need her, right? She's not as important if you're the late game. The earlier you are, the better she is, right? But she's still amazing, amazing unit. So let's actually look at the kits to see what I'm talking about. Starting with Yufine, since this one will be pretty fast, since she doesn't have a lot going for her. And she actually does have an exclusive equipment. So let me show the exclusive equipment first, and then we'll look at the skills. And it won't make sense right now if you have never read her skills, but it'll make sense later. So let me show you guys her exclusive equipment. So if we look at her exclusive equipment, it basically like extends her buffs, does extra damage, and does something else, right? So that's one. You either increase the damage, you extend the caster's duration. This is S1, by the way. And this one, you can inflict the higher chance to inflict silence, right? So pretty basic, nothing crazy, just damage and higher effect. And I believe it was effectiveness, if I saw it properly. I know we just saw it, but I completely didn't catch that. But now, as far as her actual kit and why she's very replaceable, right? She doesn't really do anything that's like super unique that can't be done by someone else. So we go here, we go to Yufine. She was actually my third 5-star, so she has a special place in my heart. But as far as stats, I mean, she has pretty standard warrior stats. Really good attack, but kind of low HP and defense, right? A little bit on the low side. Decent speed, not great, not super slow. But she does have critical hit damage and does have an extra little bit of crit rate, which does allow her to cleave. She used to be an amazing cleaver back in her day. She was actually a really strong cleaver, and she could do a lot. She was actually a premier unit at the time. Her awakening is going to be just regular attack, which allows her to do more damage. But she used to be a really, really strong unit. So now let's look at the skills. The S1, it's a lot of damage with a chance to decrease defense for 2 turns. It's a 50% chance to decrease defense. And that's about it, right? So you can use this to extend your buffs, which is one of the reasons some people like to use their own counter sets for PvP to have fun. That is something you can definitely do. And having the extend debuff one would actually make it so she could get a lot more buff extensions. The other one would be the extra damage, which again is nice, again on counter set if you are doing that, or for cleaving as well if you want to do a little bit of extra damage, right? So nothing crazy on this S1. I mean, it's pretty basic. The S2, actually not a bad skill. It's actually a pretty spicy skill, and I thought she had potential for a little bit because of the skill, but it's just there are just other units that can do something very similar to this. This is an AoE attack that dispels 1 buff and silences for 1 turn and gives herself attack and speed buff. That part, really, really nice, right? Self buff, always good, which is why some people use it for PvP for another build. But for the most part, it's like unless you're using a really fast one to set this up, at that point, why not use something like an F10A? Why not use something like a Sage Ball? Why not use a Broman? Why not use a Bazaar or Cerise? There's a lot of other units that kind of do similar stuff to what this does, but you can also buff it up so it has extra chance to land, going all the way up to 100% to land that silence, which is nice, right? Not a terrible skill, right? Actually pretty nice, and actually one of her stronger skills, right? But just playing her because of this is a little weird, right? Especially because she doesn't get you would have to soul burn this to get the extra turn. But then we have the S3, which is the other spicy part of her kit, which is going to be a single target skill that strips all buffs, does extra damage when the enemy is buffed, and stuns the target for 1 turn. This skill used to be amazing for dealing with Seaside. It used to be one of Seaside's biggest counter, and the reason why people used to run her a lot. You can start seeing what the problem is on her kit. It's like you want to start with this skill, right? Because you're able to soul burn, stun a unit, do damage, and then set up a control skill. The only problem right now with her is that her S2 is the one you want to open with because it's the one that gives you attack buff. And then it'd be cool if you could do the S3. I wish that they would have given the soul burn to the S2. So that way you could open with an S2, right? Have a really fast DPS one, open with an S2, and then do an S3 to try to take a target out. But that's not how it works. It's the soul burn S3 and then the other one. The thing that this does allow, the soul burn S3 into an S2 or S1, is she used to be a cleave unit with Oxlots. Oxlots would push her up. She would soul burn with the Oxlot souls. She'd do this soul burn. She would kill a unit, get an extra turn, and usually the S1 with the increased damage one was enough to kill the other unit. This cleave still does work for Guild Wars, and it still does work for Arena if that's something that you want to play. If you have a Yufine and you really like her design, that is something you can definitely do. So overall, where can you use her? As I mentioned before, this skill does a ton of damage on units like Banshee because it's a single target damage skill on an Earth hero that has a lot of base damage stats. So that's why some people use it to one-shot Banshee, although it does require a Leo to apply a target debuff as well as a decreased defense. The other thing you can use her for is going to be Water Expedition. The decreased defense on the S1 is kind of invaluable, right? Because you're able to apply decreased defense pretty often. You self-buff with this skill, and you also can do a lot of damage with the S3. People do really fast Water Expedition runs with the regular Yufine, right? Very, very good Expedition runs. And then, of course, for PvP, you have the Cleave build with Oxlots, that's still really good in Guild Wars if that's something you want to use her in. And then, of course, you also have it in Arena, although there's a lot of Politeses nowadays. Or the counter build, which is a really fun build. Counter Yufine, it's actually pretty fun. You get to, kind of like a Bruiser build, you get to counter attack with this skill, do extra damage, potentially decrease defense, extend your buffs, and then you're able to set up S2 and S2, get attack, get speed, and then stun a priority target like someone like a Seaside Bellona, right? So that's a kit. I mean, it's pretty mediocre. She just gets outclassed by a lot of heroes in this game. But now, as far as Roana, what makes her so unique? What makes her so special, and what makes her so hard to deal with in certain situations? So, for the Roana, first, stats. She is chunky. Very, very chunky, right? Her HP is a little bit on the lower side at 5,000, but her defense, I believe, is tied for second or first. Or it might just be first, right? It's one of the highest base defenses in the game. I think Emil Hayes is another one of the units that has a very high starting base defense. But again, very, very chunky. At the cost, of course, of her speed, right? She's not the fastest unit out there, but it doesn't really matter as much. As far as the Awakening, it is going to be health, so you can make her extra chunky and supplement that part that she doesn't have. And her skills usually do scale up with the HP. So now what does she do, right? What does this chunky unit do? First, the S1. Pretty basic. Attacks, gives a barrier to the ally for the lowest health. Nothing crazy, right? A barrier, recycling barrier, nothing crazy. Then we get to the passive, and you start to realize the value that this unit has. Recovers the health of an ally when an ally is attacked by an extra attack, counter attack, or dual attack. Extra attack, think something like a Charles, right? So a Charles S2 is considered an extra attack. This will trigger, right? That's one example. A counterattack, that is something like a Ravi counterattacking. That's something like a Seaside attacking. Seaside counts in the extra attack. Ravi would count on the counterattack section. You know, you have other units that can counter, like a counter Dizzy. And then you have the dual attack, which a lot of units actually have this. Just naturally in the game, units have dual attack, so it can come in clutch. Then there's Cerise. Then there's Lilius. Then there is, what's that other unit? Seaside. Right? Oh, well, I already said Seaside. So this one, the dual attack would just be Cerise and Lilius, right? And Ross, S2. So pretty nice. And when that happens, you get a 5% CR push every time an ally, per attacked ally. So if they do an AoE attack, like Seaside, it's a 20% CR push. If they do a Cerise S1, it's only one dual attack. It's only, if it only goes into one unit, it's a 5%. If it's a Dizzy counterattack, it's 4 units. It's going to be 20%, right? Pretty basic. And you also heal. This unit can out-heal Seaside quite easily. This is usually the only skin you would Molagora as well, right? Making her very, very strong, very, very annoying. The big thing, again, there is so much extra attacks in PvE. Every single raid boss has a counterattack. Banshee has a extra skill, or has an extra skill, not a counterattack. There's a lot of extra skills in this game, right? In PvE, which is why she's so good, especially in some stages of Abyss and in Water Expedition. With the right team, when you're moving pretty fast, you will be triggering the counter when the Water Expedition does come back. There's a lot of places where this is really, 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 really strong, right? So very nice unit, very, very strong, very, very nice. And then, of course, on top of all that, you have an S3. This is actually a pretty significant heal and grants revive for 2 turns. In RTA, this can come in clutch at the right time, allowing you to not only heal your units, but also set up the revive buff and deny units like Ikra an S3 for some time, right? Since they don't want to burn the S3, kill, and then you come back, and then you can heal, right? So it's very, very scary at the right time. It stops a lot of different units. For Cleave teams, if they're not able to kill the Roana, she'll be able to use the S3. If they don't kill the Roana, she stalls, right? Because people usually do tend to build her pretty slow. She'll use this S3. We mentioned she's very chunky. She'll survive. She'll S3. And she just stalls. So in Arena, even if you lose your Arena, you stall. Which a lot of people don't want to deal with stall. Right? So that's the other reason. So Roana, very stacked kit. Where can you use her? PvP, PvE. She's pretty much good everywhere, which is why she's a unit that you should consider getting, and she has a lot of potential. As far as how you would build her, she has 2 builds. She has the counter build, and she has the speed build. And she has different stats that you would need for both. So, as far as the counter build, this is one that we have on the Discord. You see her very, very tanky, very, very high defense. You don't need all the speed. I would say what would actually be really, really good would be if all the speed was actually an F-res, because that way they are not able to strip your buffs as easily, right? And you see on the counter build, Celestine, very, very annoying, because every time you counter, not only do you give a barrier with the S1, you're also giving a heal, which can be pretty annoying when you have a unit that is this chunky, right? So that would be the counter Roana. And then as far as a different Roana, more like just a regular Roana that you can just use for general purposes. This one also works as well. And this one is just making it as tanky and annoying as possible. You see the higher F-res here. This is mostly also for Seaside, so Seaside can hit you, or Cerise, and a lot of those units. We also see Estella Harpa, which is actually really good on her for countering F10A and for countering RC and Mercedes, right? Another unit that's very, very popular right now, who Roana can actually counter. So that's why you would want F-res on Roana. And then, of course, the Roana on my own, who is actually an Idols tier, who is there to really punish Seaside and give my DPS or my booster a ton of turns, allowing me to cycle there quicker. And, of course, very similar. I mean, she's very easy to build. You don't even really need the speed. She just needs health, defense, F-res. Ideally, mine doesn't have F-res. I need to change mine. And that's it, right? Pretty easy build. But that is all I have for you guys today. Hopefully your summons go amazing and you guys pull the unit that you want. But that is all I got for you guys today. I will see y'all next time. Peace.